Every real-time strategy game is built on one thing: a resource. Minerals, gold, tiberium, the stuff you harvest to build everything else. Your army, your buildings, your entire economy all flow out of that one resource node. So zoom out to the real world and ask a simple question. What is the resource node that the entire human economy is built on? The answer, more than anything else, is oil. And oil is not just the fuel in your car. It is the master resource. It moves every truck, every ship, and every plane that carries everything you own. It is in the plastic in your phone, the fertilizer that grows your food, the asphalt under your feet, and the packaging on every product you have ever bought. Civilization is one enormous base, and oil is the resource node powering all of it. Which is why the price of oil is not just one number scrolling on the news. It is the price of running the entire game. And the list of what oil hides inside is genuinely strange. The tires on your car, the shoes on your feet, crayons, aspirin, lipstick, toothpaste, the coating on your pills, even the panels on a solar farm, all made with oil. You are surrounded by it, wearing it, and eating food grown with it every single day, usually without ever noticing. That is what it means to be the master resource. It is everywhere, and it is invisible. So let's break down how that price is actually set, who controls the spawn rate, why it swings so violently, and why one move in this single number can quietly reach into your grocery bill, your rent, and your paycheck. Start with supply. In an RTS, every resource node has a spawn rate, how fast the resource comes out of the ground. For oil, that spawn rate is controlled by a surprisingly small number of players, and the most powerful of them is a cartel. It is called OPEC, a group of oil-producing nations that together sit on most of the world's cheap, easy-to-pump oil, and they do exactly what a smart player would do if they controlled the map's main resource node. They throttle it. When OPEC wants prices higher, the members agree to pump less, choking the spawn rate on purpose. When they want prices lower, they open the taps and let it flow. A single meeting in a conference room can move the price of energy for the entire planet. But running a cartel is harder than it looks, and here the game gets interesting. Because every member has a quota, a limit on how much they are allowed to pump. And every member is secretly tempted to cheat, to quietly pump a little extra and grab more money while everyone else holds back. It is a classic standoff. The cartel only stays strong if everyone shows restraint, and every player has a private reason to break ranks. Hold OPEC in your mind as a team of players who have agreed to choke their own resource node, and who are always one betrayal away from flooding the map. And in recent years, the cartel only got bigger. OPEC teamed up with Russia and a handful of other producers into a wider alliance, sometimes called OPEC+, controlling an even larger slice of the world's supply. The more of the map's resource a single team controls, the more power they have to set the price for everyone else. Because OPEC is not alone on the map anymore. Over the last 15 years, a brand new player showed up and changed everything: American shale. New drilling technology cracked open billions of barrels that used to be impossible to reach, and almost overnight, the United States became the largest oil producer in the world. So now there is a constant tug of war. OPEC throttles to push prices up, shale floods back in to push them down. The spawn rate of the world's most important resource is set by this fight, and it never really ends. Now flip to the other side of the price: demand. How badly does everyone want the resource? And the answer for oil is almost everyone, almost all of the time. Every growing economy burns more oil. When the world's factories are running hot, when people are flying and driving and buying, demand climbs. When a giant economy like China speeds up, global demand for oil jumps with it. When the world slows down, demand sinks. Demand even has a rhythm to it. More people hit the road in the summer, so prices often climb when the weather warms up. And looming over all of it is a much bigger question. As electric cars and clean energy slowly grow, will the world's hunger for oil one day finally peak? Maybe someday. But for now, the server still runs on it, and that demand is still absolutely enormous. So the price of oil is balanced on a permanent tension. On one side, a spawn rate controlled by a few players choking and flooding the node. On the other, demand from basically the entire server, rising and falling with the health of the global economy. And the gap between those two forces is where the price lies. Now here is where it gets wild and why oil is always in the headlines. The price does not move gently, it whipsaws. The reason has a fancy name: inelasticity. But the game version is simple. In the short run, almost nobody can change how much oil they use. You still have to drive to work tomorrow, whether gas is $3 a gallon or $6. Factories cannot swap their fuel source overnight. Airlines cannot stop flying. So when supply and demand fall out of balance, even a little, the price has to move a lot to force everyone back into line. A tiny gap is all it takes. If the world suddenly has just a few percent less oil than it wants, the price does not rise a few percent. It can spike 30, 40, 50% because everyone is scrambling for the same shrinking pool, and almost nobody can afford to simply walk away. The resource node barely flickers, and the price explodes. That is why oil is one of the most violent prices on Earth. And there is one more thing pouring fuel on the swings: traders. Oil is bought and sold on enormous futures markets, where speculators bet on where the price is heading next. When fear takes over and everyone piles onto the same side of the bet, those bets can shove the price even harder and faster than the physical supply and demand ever would on their own. The whipsaw starts to feed on itself. And it cuts both ways. In the spring of 2020, when the world locked down and demand fell off a cliff, there was suddenly far too much oil and nowhere to put it. The price did not just fall. For one surreal day, the price of American oil went negative. Producers were paying people to take the stuff off their hands because every storage tank on the planet was full. That is how brutal the whipsaw can be when the balance breaks. So when that volatility turns into a true, lasting spike, you get an oil shock. The moments when this one resource node wiped the entire server. In the early 1970s, OPEC cut off oil to several Western nations, and the price quadrupled almost overnight. Gas stations ran dry, cars lined up around the block, and the shock helped drag the whole world into a long, painful recession. A few years later, revolution in Iran did it all over again. Decades on, oil rocketed toward $150 a barrel right before the 2008 financial crisis. And when war broke out in Ukraine, energy prices screamed upward, and your gas pump felt it within days. Every single one of these was the same pattern. The resource node spikes, and the cost of running the entire economy spikes right along with it. Which brings us to the part that actually touches your life. Because you might be thinking, I will just drive a little less and I will be fine. But oil does not reach you only at the pump, not even close. Think for a second about what you are actually paying for at the pump. The biggest single piece of the price of a gallon of gas is just the raw crude oil itself. The rest is the cost of refining it, shipping it around, and taxes. So when crude spikes, the largest chunk of that pump price swells, and the number on the sign climbs almost in real time. But the pump is only the part you can see. Remember, oil moves everything. So when oil gets expensive, the cost of shipping every product goes up. The cost of making plastic goes up. The cost of fertilizer goes up, so food on the shelf gets more expensive. Airlines, delivery trucks, construction, farming, manufacturing, all of it runs on this one resource, and all of it quietly passes the higher cost down the line until it lands on you. A spike in oil slowly becomes a spike in almost everything you buy. That is why oil is one of the biggest hidden engines of inflation. When the resource node gets expensive, the entire server gets expensive. Governments know how dangerous this is, which is why many keep an emergency stockpile, a strategic reserve of oil buried away for exactly these moments. When prices spike hard enough, they can release some of that hoard to flood the market and take the edge off, like a player cracking open a hidden cache to survive a rush. It helps at the margins, but no stockpile is big enough to fight the whole world's demand for long. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here is the honest answer. You are not going to outtrade OPEC. You cannot control the spawn rate and you cannot stop the whipsaw. But you can understand the game, and that alone puts you ahead of almost everyone. When you see oil spiking, you now know what is coming next. Higher prices rippling outward over the following months, pressure on your budget, and pressure on the whole economy. When you see it crashing, you often know relief is on the way. Oil is the closest thing the economy has to a master gauge, a single number that tells you how expensive it is about to become to simply exist. You cannot control the resource node, but the players who understand why it moves are never blindsided by it. They see the spike, and they brace for the ripple. Everyone else just feels the world get more expensive month after month and never understands why. That is the real secret of oil. It looks like a number for traders and oil tycoons in faraway rooms. It is actually the price of the one resource that quietly runs your entire life. So watch it, understand it, and you will always see the next move coming long before everyone else feels it at the pump.